The Baghdad Battery, ancient power before its time. In 1938, deep in the storerooms of the National Museum of Iraq, a German archaeologist named Wilhelm Koenig stumbled upon a small, unassuming clay jar. It was about the size of a modern hand, narrow at the top, bulbous at the middle, with a corroded copper cylinder and an iron rod sealed inside with asphalt. To most eyes, it was a curious artifact, perhaps a piece of ceremonial pottery or a storage vessel. But Koenig looked closer. What he found would ignite one of archaeology's most persistent enigmas, the so-called Baghdad Battery. This little jar, dated to around 250 BCE during the Parthian period, seemed ordinary until Koenig proposed a radical idea: what if it was an ancient galvanic cell, capable of producing electricity? The copper and iron components, when combined with an acidic liquid like vinegar or lemon juice, could indeed generate a weak electrical current. A simple battery, 2,000 years before the science of electricity was ever known. For decades, this theory captured imaginations worldwide. Some researchers reconstructed the battery, filled it with vinegar, and watched tiny voltmeters flicker. The results? Small, but real, enough current to deliver a mild shock, or perhaps to power electroplating of gold or silver. Others suggested it might have been used for medicinal purposes, to stimulate the body like a primitive therapeutic device. But here lies the mystery: there's no direct evidence it was ever used this way. No wires, no devices, no written descriptions of such experiments exist from that era. Scholars still debate whether the Baghdad Battery was truly an electrical instrument, or simply a storage vessel for scrolls or sacred oils. Some even argue the corrosion and sealing were coincidental, artifacts of decay rather than intention. And yet, the idea refuses to die. Perhaps because it's too enticing to ignore, the notion that somewhere in ancient Mesopotamia, long before Benjamin Franklin's kite or Edison's lab, a craftsman accidentally discovered the secret of electricity. The fringe interpretations take it further. Some fringe historians claim the jars were part of temple rituals, their faint current producing tingling sensations interpreted as divine presence. Others insist they were remnants of forgotten technological knowledge, proof that early civilizations reached higher than we believe, their innovations later lost to time. What's undeniable is that the craftsmanship shows deliberation. The copper cylinder fits snugly within the jar, insulated by bitumen. The iron rod does not touch the copper, mimicking precisely the structure of later batteries. Whether intentional or not, it mirrors principles we associate with modern science. There's also a strange irony to its discovery. Found near Kujut Rabu, just outside Baghdad, the jar emerged from the cradle of civilization, the same soil that once birthed writing, law, and mathematics. That the seeds of electricity might have been there too feels almost poetic, as though Mesopotamia's inventive spark never truly dimmed. But the greatest intrigue lies not in the object itself, but in our reaction to it. We crave anomalies, things that shouldn't exist, yet do. The Baghdad Battery stands as a small rebellion against our tidy timelines. If real, it rewrites a chapter of scientific progress. If not, it reminds us how easily mystery and myth intertwine. In museums today, replicas of the battery sit behind glass, labeled cautiously, function unknown, possibly electrochemical. A phrase that perfectly captures its paradox. Scholars still debate whether it truly generated power, or if modern minds projected technology onto ancient clay. But perhaps that's the truest current it carries, not electrical, but imaginative. A charge that leaps across centuries, connecting us to forgotten hands that once built, tested, and wondered in the dark. The Antikythera Mechanism, Greece's impossible machine. Beneath the turquoise waters off the Greek island of Antikythera, a Roman shipwreck lay undisturbed for nearly 2 millennia, its cargo, marble statues and amphorae, sleeping in silence. When sponge divers discovered it in 1901, they brought to the surface not only relics of art and trade but a corroded lump of bronze and wood that would change how we understand the ancient world. At first glance, it looked like a ruined gear or clock part, barely recognizable. But as archaeologists cleaned the fragments and saw the fine precision of its teeth, they realized they had stumbled upon something impossible, a machine that shouldn't exist. The Antikythera Mechanism, dated to around 100 BCE, is now understood to be an ancient analog computer, built long before the concept of computation existed. The device, once encased in a wooden box, contained over 30 interlocking bronze gears. When cranked, it could predict solar and lunar eclipses, track the positions of planets, and even forecast the timing of the Olympic Games. It was, in essence, a mechanical model of the cosmos, crafted with mathematical precision so advanced that nothing like it would appear again for over 1,000 years. To put that in perspective, Europe wouldn't produce clockwork mechanisms of comparable complexity until the 14th century. Yet here, in the Hellenistic world, someone had already mastered the language of gears and ratios. Scholars still debate whether its genius was singular or systemic. Was there one brilliant inventor, perhaps inspired by Archimedes or Hipparchus, or an entire lost school of Greek engineers whose works vanished when Rome rose and Alexandria's libraries burned? The level of sophistication suggests lineage, a tradition of mechanical knowledge reaching back generations. And yet, not a single other example has survived. It's as though this machine appeared out of nowhere, then disappeared without descendants. Its discovery spurred countless theories. Fringe historians argue it's evidence of forgotten technologies, perhaps remnants of Atlantis or a pre-cataclysmic civilization whose innovations were erased. Some claim it reflects alien inspiration, its astronomical precision beyond human capacity at that time. But more grounded minds see it differently, as proof that the ancients were far more observant, experimental, and ingenious than we often give them credit for. The inscriptions etched onto its bronze plates are written in Koine Greek, describing cycles of the moon and planets. They even include corrections for lunar irregularities, something modern science rediscovered only centuries later. In 2021, advanced 3D scans revealed hidden texts inside the fragments, allowing researchers to digitally reconstruct the mechanism. What they found was astonishing. The front displayed the zodiac and calendar, while the back tracked eclipses and celestial events using a differential gear system. The very same concept would later become central to modern engineering. And yet, despite all this progress, a single question remains unanswered: why? Why would such a device exist in a world where only priests and philosophers needed celestial knowledge? Was it an educational tool? A navigational aid? A philosopher's toy, or a temple instrument? Scholars still debate whether it was made for practical use or as a divine demonstration of cosmic order. Its craftsmanship implies both scientific insight and spiritual reverence. To the Greeks, understanding the heavens was not just mathematics, it was communion with the divine. The Antikythera Mechanism embodies that fusion, bridging reason and wonder, metal and myth. Today, in a climate-controlled case in Athens, the fragments sit like relics of a parallel timeline, one where science flowered early, only to vanish. Looking at those delicate gears, one can't help but feel a quiet awe. How much knowledge have we lost, and how much might still lie sleeping beneath the waves? If the Baghdad Battery whispered of forgotten sparks, the Antikythera Mechanism roared of impossible genius. It should not exist, yet it does, and in its quiet defiance, it reminds us that history, like machinery, has more moving parts than we can ever see. The Sacsayhuaman walls, stone that shouldn't fit. Above the old Incan capital of Cusco, high in the thin Andean air, there stands a fortress that defies both logic and gravity. Sacsayhuaman, its name echoing through centuries like a riddle carved in stone. Towering walls, built from massive blocks of limestone and andesite, rise in interlocking zigzags, each stone pressed so perfectly against its neighbor that even a blade of grass cannot slip between them. No mortar, no modern machinery, only precision and mystery. The largest of these stones weighs over 300 tons, quarried miles away and somehow transported up steep mountainsides. The site dates back to the 15th century, built under the rule of the Inca Emperor Pachacuti, though evidence suggests it may rest on far older foundations. Standing before it, one feels small, a visitor to a geometry beyond human reach. The walls don't crumble. They breathe with the landscape, each joint curving slightly, allowing the structure to flex through centuries of earthquakes. The mainstream view attributes this marvel to meticulous craftsmanship and ingenious engineering. The Inca, after all, were masters of stonework. They carved with hammerstones of harder rock, shaping surfaces through patience, rhythm, and experience. Their architecture had no written blueprints, only intuition and inherited knowledge passed from one mason to another. The precision of Sacsayhuaman wasn't magic, it was method. Or so the archaeologists say. But the site's perfection invites doubt. How were such colossal blocks moved without wheels or iron tools? How were corners rounded, surfaces curved, and faces matched to complex angles without measurable error? Scholars still debate whether it was achieved solely with pounding stones, or if more advanced techniques were used, perhaps lost tools of metallurgy or an understanding of stone softening through heat or chemistry. Fringe theorists, unsurprisingly, reach further. Some claim Sacsayhuaman is far older than the Inca, built by a civilization erased by time. Others insist the site bears evidence of technology unknown to recorded history, machines or energies capable of shaping stone like clay. The Inca themselves said the walls were built by the gods, by Viracocha, a creator deity who commanded the stones to move on their own. In their myths, the rocks walked into place, a poetic echo of something too magnificent to comprehend. Yet, beyond all speculation, what remains undeniable is the Inca genius for adapting nature into architecture. Unlike the rigid geometry of Roman walls, these stones curve and lean, like muscles flexing beneath the earth. Earthquakes have shattered cities across the Andes, but not Sacsayhuaman. Its builders understood balance not as symmetry but as living tension, a truth modern engineers are still learning to respect. Beneath the fortress lie tunnels and chambers, some unexplored, leading to theories of hidden chambers or ceremonial catacombs. Spanish chroniclers, when they first arrived in Cusco, believed they had found the work of giants. The conquistadors dismantled many walls to reuse the stone, yet they could never replicate the original joins. Even today, the remaining structure humbles all attempts at imitation. One stone, shaped like a perfect 12-sided polygon, locks the others into place like a puzzle. It's not just construction, it's language, carved without words. A declaration that the Inca saw the world not in straight lines, but in interlocking harmonies. As the light fades over the Andes, shadows fall into the seams of those walls, turning them into black veins running through pale stone. The fortress stands silent, indestructible, ancient yet alive. Its builders knew something about endurance, something we've forgotten. Scholars still debate whether Sacsayhuaman's perfection is purely human craftsmanship or evidence of knowledge we've lost between centuries of conquest and collapse. Whatever the truth, its stones remain the Inca's most eloquent survivors, an architecture that refuses to fall, a riddle that refuses to answer. The Piri Reis map, the world before discovery. In 1929, while cataloging ancient documents in Istanbul's Topkapi Palace, scholars unrolled a fragment of gazelle-skin parchment and found the world, drawn centuries before it should have been known. The Piri Reis map, dated 1513 and signed by an Ottoman admiral of the same name, depicted Europe, West Africa, and the Americas in remarkable detail. But it also showed something else, something that, if true, would overturn the accepted timeline of exploration, a coastline resembling Antarctica, drawn centuries before that frozen continent was officially discovered. Admiral Piri Reis, a cartographer and seafarer, claimed his map was compiled from older charts, some Greek, some Arab, and others, he wrote, from the time of Alexander the Great. The accuracy was uncanny. The map's portrayal of South America's east coast is nearly perfect, and its longitudinal precision would have required instruments unknown in the 16th century. Even more baffling, the supposed Antarctic coast is shown ice-free, with river valleys and mountain ranges visible beneath what is now 2 miles of ice. Mainstream historians explain the map's precision as a combination of coincidence, artistic correction, and exceptional seamanship. The Antarctic coast, they argue, may actually be South America's distorted southern tip, Terra Australis Incognita imagined by medieval minds. Yet, the alignment of those contours with modern subglacial topography is so close that it still unsettles even the skeptical. Scholars still debate whether Pyre Reis somehow accessed ancient maritime knowledge, or if his map simply mirrors the collective intelligence of early explorers reaching farther south than history remembers. Fringe theorists, of course, take it further. They claim the admiral copied his data from pre-Ice Age charts made by a lost civilization, proof that advanced navigators once mapped the globe when Antarctica was still temperate. Others invoke extraterrestrial guidance or Atlantean archives buried beneath the pyramids. These ideas, dramatic as they are, feed the same unease the map inspires. It feels like an echo from before history began recording itself. The surviving fragment is small, barely a third of the original map, painted in brilliant reds and blues, with tiny ships battling stylized sea monsters across the Atlantic. Its artistry captures not just geography but imagination, an ocean alive with peril and promise. Pyre Reis annotated it meticulously in Ottoman Turkish, noting the sources he used and the mysteries he could not explain. In one margin, he admits uncertainty, writing that parts of his information came from maps drawn in the time of Solomon. Whether metaphor or memory, the phrase lingers like a whisper of forgotten worlds. Scientific analysis adds intrigue. When experts compared the supposed Antarctic section to modern seismic surveys in the 1960s, they found remarkable alignment between the drawn coast and the real land beneath the ice. How could an Ottoman admiral have known such detail? Chance seems too kind an answer, yet no better one exists. Still, when stripped of legend, the map remains a testament to curiosity, to humanity's relentless urge to chart the unknown. Its elegance shows the fusion of Greek geometry, Arab astronomy, and Renaissance art. Pyre Reis himself was executed decades later, accused of treachery, his genius unappreciated in life. His map outlived him, surviving war and empire, preserved by accident in a palace drawer. We gaze at it now and see two possibilities. Either it is a misinterpreted masterpiece, an extraordinary synthesis of known data, or it is a message from a deeper past, a relic of knowledge that shouldn't exist. Scholars still debate whether we are reading genius or ghosts. Either way, the parchment invites us to imagine a world more connected, more knowing, than our history dares to admit. The lines fade, the ink cracks, but the enigma endures. Who first mapped the edges of the earth, and why did they vanish, leaving only this fragile memory of impossible knowledge? The Voynich manuscript, a book written in no language. In 1912, an eccentric Polish book dealer named Wilfred Voynich purchased a collection of manuscripts from an Italian Jesuit college. Among the bundle was a curious codex, 245 vellum pages, densely filled with looping, alien script and luminous illustrations of plants, zodiac diagrams, and impossible machines. It looked medieval, but unlike any medieval text ever seen. No one could read a word. More than a century later, no one still can. This enigma would become known as the Voynich manuscript, and it is perhaps the most perplexing book in human history, a work of genius, deceit, or something in between. Carbon dating places the parchment to the early 15th century, yet the language, or code, defies every attempt at translation. Cryptographers, linguists, computer scientists, and even Cold War intelligence agencies have all tried to decipher it. Every letter seems deliberate, the writing fluid and natural, suggesting that the author wasn't improvising gibberish. Statistical patterns indicate a real linguistic structure, but one belonging to no known tongue. Some letters repeat in rhythms too orderly for nonsense, too irregular for cipher. Scholars still debate whether the Voynich text hides a message, a code, or a linguistic illusion, meaning disguised as form. Its illustrations are equally strange. Dozens of unknown plants, some vaguely familiar, others botanically impossible, fill its herbal pages. Naked women bathe in green liquid flowing through pipes, as if inside a surreal plumbing system. Astronomical drawings combine stars, moons, and zodiac signs, suggesting both astrology and anatomy. At times it feels alchemical, as though the author tried to capture the secret architecture of nature itself. But nothing aligns with known schools of thought. No medieval herbal, no astrological treatise matches its blend of innocence and obsession. Theories bloom like weeds around it. Some believe it was the work of a Renaissance hoaxer, designed to dupe wealthy collectors chasing forbidden knowledge. Others claim it's an elaborate cipher hiding heretical or esoteric secrets, Kabbalistic, Gnostic, or even alien in origin. In the 1960s, cryptanalysts from the U.S. National Security Agency spent months studying it and declared it a text without meaning. Yet in 2019, computer models using AI suggested it may follow a Proto-Romance language structure, a ghostly cousin of Latin, but no translation followed. Every claim dissolves into uncertainty. Fringe enthusiasts go further, seeing it as evidence of time travel, lost civilizations, or communication from non-human intelligence. The Voynich, they argue, speaks in the universal code of pattern, the geometry of thought itself. Whether madness or revelation, it remains the same riddle: someone made it, deliberately, to say something no one can read. And there are the human details, the ink stains where the scribe's hand must have trembled, the care with which the pages were ruled and painted. This wasn't random, it was devotion. Some pages contain fold-out diagrams like maps of unseen worlds. Others reveal strange biological imagery, roots intertwining with human limbs, veins mirrored by rivers, plants merging into stars. It is as if the author saw no boundaries between body and cosmos. One cannot help but imagine the writer, alone by candlelight, dipping quill into ink, sketching forms that whispered only to them. Perhaps they feared persecution and wrote in code to preserve their discovery. Perhaps they invented a language to protect a dream from corruption. Or perhaps the manuscript was never meant to be understood, only to exist, a mirror of the unknowable. Today, the Voynich manuscript rests in Yale University's Beinecke Library, its pages digitized but its soul opaque. Scholars still debate whether it conceals knowledge or mocks our need for it. Every theory becomes another layer of mystery, another translation of silence. It shouldn't exist, a book so elaborate, so intentional, yet so unreadable. And yet, perhaps that's why it does. It reminds us that knowledge, like the universe, contains spaces forever closed to comprehension. The Voynich doesn't just refuse to speak, it teaches us the humility of not knowing. Conclusion. Across 5 enigmas, the Baghdad Battery, the Antikythera Mechanism, the walls of Sacsayhuaman, the map of Pyre Reis, and the Voynich manuscript, we encounter a pattern older than history itself: humanity's capacity to reach beyond reason. Each mystery whispers the same forbidden question: what if progress is not linear, but cyclical? What if our ancestors touched understanding, then lost it to time's erosion? These artifacts defy our categories, half legend, half logic, each suggesting that the past may be stranger, and more intelligent, than we dare admit. Whether relics of forgotten science or mirrors of our imagination, they remind us that wonder endures where certainty falters. In the shadows of ruins and riddles, we find the essence of civilization, not the answers we keep, but the mysteries that refuse to fade.